Okay, last one and then I'm done with lower decks. And I know it's hard to stick the landing when you barely left the runway, but did they at least finish strong and end the season with something semi-decent? Or was it more the same unfunny middling schlock we've gotten for the last 9 episodes? Let's just get this over with. The episode begins with the captain and Ransom on some planet perpetually stuck in the Wild West, where the people have been worshipping some dark god that turned out to be a computer or something. This seems to be a reference to some TOS episode I never saw, because the captain keeps complaining that they're just rehashing what Kirk and his crew had to deal with back in the day. I thought this was some kind of self-aware joke about how derivative the Lower Decks plots are, but I don't really know that they are derivative exactly, they're just lame and uninspired. If anything, they've been repeating themselves more than copying past Trek shows. They've already regurgitated basic plots from earlier Lower Decks episodes once or twice, and when you're in your first season, which is only 10 episodes long, that's something you want to be making jokes about. Afterward, the captain's irritated that Starfleet doesn't allow them to interfere with alien civilizations until after they've gone to shit. And this is just one episode after she got pissed off at Mariner for doing exactly that, in case you were wondering how important continuity is. In the first episode where continuity is actually supposed to matter. Go figure. So the captain wants to take off, but they can't yet because they've still got crew down on the planet. Cut to Mariner surrounded by little kids and handing out art supplies of all things. It's not Federation technology or anything, so I'm not sure what the Prime Directive stance on this is. But it's Mariner, so we can assume this is still highly illegal. Boimler shows up, and Mariner's expecting a big lecture from him, but is shocked when Boimler joins her in handing out crayons that will most likely be going straight up these kids' noses. Mariner's very confused why Boimler doesn't have a stick up his ass for a change, but he's tired of her always having all the fun while he's stuck following the rules. Odd, since previous episodes clearly established that Boimler loves following the rules, and since he now knows her big secret that Captain Freeman is her mother, she can just use her nepotism powers to get them out of trouble. Unbeknownst to Boimler, the entire bridge crew is listening in on their conversation through the comms. The captain has them beamed back up, she's pissed off, Boimler shits a brick, and this scene really doesn't track with the ending of the last episode at all. Then, Boimler was completely freaking out about learning this secret, due to the hologram captain saying that him knowing it could get him court-martialed. Spoiler, that never happens. But now, all of a sudden, he's thinking, I can totally use this to break the rules all I want and get off scot-free. Hashtag Boim me up, bitches. Which is not only out of character for him, but it's throwing continuity out the window, which is going to be especially annoying given some things that happen in a few minutes. We then cut over to a different Federation ship, the Solvang, right before they get sneak attacked by an alien ship that overwhelms them in seconds. The captain orders a retreat, but the alien ship attaches some grappling hook thing to the Solvang, so when they try to go to warp, the ship just tears itself apart and they all die. Okay. It took the show a while, but they created some stakes here. I'm not confident this'll go somewhere good, but they've at least got my attention. Back on the Cerritos, Tendy's excited to be the orientation officer for a new crewmate, while Rutherford is screwing with the attitude selector on his cyborg implant and accidentally pulls a piece off, revealing a button that gives him a new personality every time it's pushed. Why a cyborg implant would even have such a ludicrous thing, I couldn't tell you. But that's the one-note joke he's going to be repeating ad nauseum this episode, at least until the tonal whiplash kicks in. The new crewmate Tendy's meeting is a little floating, artificially intelligent robot that looks like it would be a lot more at home in a Star Wars cartoon. I'm not sure what it's doing here, and it seemed like the writers weren't either, but it's only around for a one-off, so I doubt it matters one way or the other. Cut to Mariner and the captain lamenting how their big secret has finally been exposed. Mariner just wanted to fly under the radar. The captain didn't want anyone to know that the biggest embarrassment to Starfleet since Berman and Braga is her daughter. It's a whole big thing. Mariner thinks there's a chance people might not be weird about this. Then Ransom comes in and he's totally weird about it. He apologizes to Mariner for ever treating her with anything less than the utmost respect and promises that he'll be giving her special attention from now on. Since the scene requires the captain to suddenly be against nepotism when previously that was the only reason why Mariner hadn't been drummed out of Starfleet several times over, she tells Ransom to be as hard on Mariner as he always is, and he assures her that he's only hard on Mariner when she makes him hard. Get it? So yeah, no nutshots in this episode, but I guess the writers could only restrain themselves for so long before they went back to the well with the dick jokes. They've got so few arrows in their quiver as it is, frankly this was inevitable. So the entire crew knows about Mariner being the captain's daughter now, and they're all being weird about it, treating Mariner like she's friends with a celebrity or something. If this was Kirk we were talking about, it would make more sense, but Freeman's always been a stern by-the-book type, so the whole thing just feels awkward. However, it does plant the seed in Mariner's head that if she can get a promotion to a different ship, everything can go back to normal. Never mind that previous episodes stressed that she didn't want a promotion, just go with it. And it just so happens that Ransom is picking someone to promote to the Sacramento as we speak. Now Boimler's applying for the promotion too, of course, so if Mariner wants this, she's gonna have to do something really outside the box. Something completely out of character for her. The very last thing anyone would ever expect her to do. Her job. So she rolls down her sleeves, fixes her hair, and basically acts like Boimler if he had an even bigger stick up his ass for a few scenes. I think it's supposed to be funny, but really it's just tiresome. They both go to Ransom to make their respective cases for the promotion, and Ransom is torn because Boimler has a spotless record, but Mariner is the captain's daughter, and nepotism is a thing in this scene even though the captain had just told him that it wasn't. He doesn't know who to choose, so he has to lift weights with his shirt off. Because that's a thing he does now. Cut to Tendi showing the robot around. She inquires about the robot's name, and it wants to be called Peanut Hamper. Because when the writers were naming this character, those were the two random-ass words they picked out of a hat. Tendi thinks that's an awesome name, because that's just what Tendi does. That's the extent of her character, pretty much. She thinks everything is awesome. The end. They go to visit Rutherford. Peanut Hamper clumsily knocks over some stuff, and Tendi begins to wonder how this robot is going to handle delicate medical procedures. Meanwhile, Rutherford's still cycling his cyborg implant through a bunch of different personality traits trying to get back to his default. Angry, sleepy, scared, whatever. Why he doesn't just go to engineering and get the damn thing fixed, I have no idea. And it never comes up, either. Later on in sickbay, Tendi tries to warn the cat doctor about Peanut Hamper's clumsiness before it performs complicated micro something or other, but then Peanut Hamper does it perfectly, and suddenly the cat doctor has a new favorite. Or a favorite. I don't know what Tendi and the cat doctor's working relationship is. They've barely interacted until now. Suddenly, Tendi feels like she's been replaced. I find it hard to wrap my brain around that since I'm still not sure what the hell Tendi's job even is, but she's a little insecure. This is something new for Tendi, and it finally breaks her out of that singular mode of being excited about everything that she's been stuck in since the pilot. This could actually be an interesting new direction for Tendi, so of course, the writers throw it out immediately, and Tendi gets excited that the crewmate she's the orientation officer for is kicking ass at its job. So no need to take that any further, I guess. Boimler confronts Mariner about her competing with him for this promotion. She figured he'd be happy about her, not being her lunatic insubordinate self for a change. He's always trying to get her to shape up, so what the hell, man? He says he wanted her to try a little bit, not profit off of nepotism. And that's a weird thing to say, since just a few scenes ago he was gung-ho about her profiting off of nepotism when he thought he'd be profiting too. Apparently it's only a good thing when it benefits him. So they start arguing, but that gets interrupted when the crew receives a partial distress call from the Solvang. When they warp in to investigate, they're confronted by the same alien ship, and they watch it graft components of the Solvang onto itself. So what, it's assimilating the technology? I feel like that should be a Borg thing. Anyway, they get caught by the same grappling hooks that got the Solvang, but Freeman's a little sharper than the other captain was, so she shuts down the engines, and instead of the Cerritos being destroyed attempting to go to warp, it's just crippled when one of the nacelles breaks off. This whole scene is played completely straight. And I liked it. It felt like a real Star Trek show for a minute here. Weirdly enough, when the writers aren't trying to punch you in the face with lame, unfunny jokes, the show actually improves. So, I guess Lower Deck's biggest problem is that it was trying to be a comedy in the first place. The alien ship hails them, and there's this weird bit where they think every Federation ship is the Enterprise. I don't know why. Maybe it's the only one they've heard of. Freeman wants to know why they're doing this, and the alien captain says that they want to add the Federation ship pieces to their ship pieces, so they will then have all the ship pieces. And that's it. That's their whole motivation, the one and only character trait they have. They are one giant walking, talking plot device. So the aliens pull the Cerritos in and start cutting the ship into ship pieces, and with her ship being destroyed and her crew in horrible danger, Captain Freeman truly proves herself one of Starfleet's finest by being like, well, I got nothing. Mariner, I need you to do my job for me. Go! Yeah. They're faced with an enemy they don't understand, so the captain's bright idea is to fight fire with fire and sick super amazing badass Mariner on them, because she's the only one who can possibly come up with a half-baked, nonsensical, Starfleet regulation violating plan so batshit insane that these asshole aliens will never see it coming. She wants to weaponize Mariner in the last-ditch hope that Mariner will use her super amazing badass powers for good. That's where we are now. God help these poor fools, things really are that desperate. And speaking of desperation, I guess Lower Decks is kind of derivative after all, because Mariner's genius plan to save the crew is literally the plot from Independence Day. They're just gonna plant a virus in the alien ship's computers. I mean, sure, there are worse movies to copy from, but if they don't have Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum to remind us how silly this situation is, I'm a lot less willing to go along with it. They're gonna need a morally bankrupt genius to code this virus. And for some reason, it wasn't Mariner who did it. I know, right? I mean, if that was describing anyone on this stupid ship, it was her. But now, because continuity matters all of a sudden, Rutherford gets Batchy to do it. He just runs to the holodeck, disengages the safety protocols, and Batchy whips up a bunch of viruses just like that. They have to be implanted manually, of course, because that's how they did it in Independence Day, and God forbid we try to come up with original ideas. Then the aliens start beaming in, so the crew retreats to the armory. They don't make it there, but luckily Mariner's got them covered. Turns out she has stashed melee weapons in hidden compartments all over the ship because the plot says so. So she immediately arms the crew with batleths and swords and axes and stuff. No phasers, though, because why would these clowns ever need a stupid thing like that? It's not like the Cerritos is getting boarded by hostile aliens every other fucking week, right? So a big fight breaks out, and I actually like this scene too. Everybody's working together for a change, they're not acting like idiots or making terrible jokes. Right now, they're just a Starfleet crew fighting off evil aliens. For the first time all season, I was almost rooting for them. It was a good feeling. Well, it lasted. There's even a nice moment between Mariner and Boimler when he confesses that he wasn't mad that she was competing for the same promotion as him. He was upset because he knew she would get the promotion and he'd miss her because she's his best friend. I seriously question Boimler's taste in friends, but I guess it's a case of Mariner's a dangerously unhinged lunatic, but she's my dangerously unhinged lunatic. How sweet? So the captain's injured in the fight, Mariner saves her, they get her to sickbay, but she's out of it for now. Then Rutherford comes in with the virus ready, now they just need someone to implant it in the alien ship. But who do they have that's small enough to sneak over there, wouldn't need a shuttle, and has the technical know-how to implant a virus into an alien computer system? Hey, wait a minute! Peanut Hamper! Peanut Hamper! Peanut Hamper! Peanut Hamper for the win! Peanut Hamper is gonna save our asses, guys! Or so they think. Unfortunately, Peanut Hamper is like, nah, that sounds scary. I just joined Starfleet to piss off my dad. because robots have parents for some reason. I don't want none of this, so I'm just gonna beam myself out of here. Later, losers. So Peanut Hamper beams away? And that's the end of that character. Truly, this has been time well spent. On that note, Rutherford finally restores his default personality, which means he can upload the virus. I'm not sure why him having a different personality meant that he couldn't upload the virus, but it did, for reasons unknown. So Bajoran's security guy throws Rutherford over his shoulder, races him to a shuttle, blasts out of the hangar bay, flies them through a war zone into the alien ship, and fends off a whole squad of aliens, none of whom have phasers for some reason, while Rutherford hooks his brain up to the alien computer. Because nothing bad has ever happened on this show when someone hooked their brain up to a computer. Wait, so the virus is uploading, it's almost done, but suddenly Batchy screws them over as payback for that time Rutherford snapped his neck. I'm sure most of you had completely forgotten about that just as I had. So Rutherford's like, oh come on, just do it. And then Batchy decides to really be a dick, and instead of disabling the computers, he'll just blow up the entire ship with them on it. But at the last moment, Bajoran's security guy grabs Rutherford, gruesomely, horrifyingly rips the cyborg implant out of his head, beats the hell out of me why when he could have just unplugged him, throws Rutherford into the shuttle, and kicks the shuttle out of there right before Batchy looks like he just crapped out the biggest dump in Star Trek history, and the ship explodes. And so ends the story of Bajoran's security guy, who chose to not simply get in the shuttle and escape with Rutherford for some reason, but who died heroically saving Rutherford and the Cerritos. And I'm not gonna say this was poorly done, but I can't help but feel like it would have meant a lot more if the writers had ever bothered to do anything with this character at all. But they didn't. The one discernible character trait he ever had was angry. I wasn't even sure what the hell his real name was until about episode 8 or 9. By the time I learned it was Shax, I'd gotten so used to calling him Bajoran's security guy that I just stuck with it. Plus, except for that one episode at the start of the season, he'd never really interacted with Rutherford at all, so there was no personal connection there. It's like the writers wanted to go for a big emotional gut punch, but they didn't do any of the work to make it mean something. A legitimately heroic death scene isn't enough to make us care that you killed off a one-note background character that you never gave a shit about all season long. The scene itself was good, but they didn't earn it. So it just felt hollow and manipulative. And let's not forget Rutherford, who got straight up maimed in this scene. It's a brutal moment in a show that has never played injuries like this seriously until now. It was almost disturbing in how shockingly violent it was, and not in a good way either. Where did this weird tonal shift come from all of a sudden? It's bizarre. Then 2 more alien ships show up, the Cerritos is up shit creek, when all of a sudden the Titan arrives, captained by Riker, and the Titan just kicks a whole bunch of ass, drives off the aliens, they play the TNG theme song, and it's a really cool moment. But the thing is, it's not cool because of anything the episode did, really. It's cool because Riker is cool and the TNG theme song is cool. So even if it was the coolest thing that's happened all season, it's only because of the goodwill we have for TNG. Having said that, it was pretty cathartic to watch Riker save everybody's asses instead of Mariner pulling another Deus Ex Machina out of hers again. More of that, please. Later on, the Cerritos is in dry dock getting repaired, and Rutherford wakes up with amnesia due to his cyborg implant getting ripped out. He has no memory of the entire first season, the lucky bastard. And of course, Tendi thinks that's awesome because now they get to become best friends all over again. So yeah, no need to get emotionally invested in that cliffhanger, or in Shax's funeral for that matter. And it's so fucking cheap that the captain puts his Bajoran earring away with respect and reverence like that's supposed to mean something, when in the previous episode they made a joke about Mariner trying to get Tendi to wear Shax's earring after she literally blew Shax's ear off along with, you know, the rest of his body parts. Man, the holodeck really is a hell of a thing, isn't it? Then Captain Freeman and Mariner have a chat. The captain's rattled that these aliens nearly handed them their asses because everyone thought this particular species was a joke. She wants to be able to anticipate problems like these before they become problems, but as a captain, she can't ignore protocol. But ignoring protocol, well, That's Mariner's wheelhouse. So they come to an understanding, and I guess in the future the captain is just gonna look the other way so Mariner can do what she wants? Oh yeah, that's not asking for trouble at all. So Tendi catches Rutherford up on all the stuff he can't remember. Boimler and Mariner make up. Boimler accepts that Mariner is his mentor, God help him, and promises to stop being so obsessed with rank in the future. But then he figures that noise because he gets promoted, but not to the Sacramento, to the Titan. Because I guess the writers want to use Riker and Troy more next season. I guess it couldn't hurt. So we flash forward a little bit, and Boimler's a lieutenant now, working on the Titan. Mariner's pissed that he took the promotion, and she's leaving him 1,000,000 voicemails, which he's ignoring because he's a dick now, apparently. And then the writers immediately ruin any cool factor Riker might have had in the future by making him quote a line from the theme song of Enterprise. You know, that terrible theme song that everybody hates? That one. But I guess it is the perfect way to sum up this season that the last thing that happens is the writers take the coolest thing they did in 10 episodes and make it as uncool as possible. Congratulations, Lower Decks, you really swung for the fences there. This episode does have some legitimately cool moments, I won't deny that, but that's all they are. Moments. They could have been a lot more if this were a better show, but it's not. Shax's death was a moment, but Shax was a nothing character, which you proved beyond a shadow of a doubt in episode 9, so we don't feel anything. Riker saving the Cerritos crew is a moment, but that's because we like Riker, not the Cerritos crew. There's a little bit of character stuff with Boimler and Mariner that's alright. That could have been a moment, but then Boimler immediately goes back on it, proving that it really meant nothing. Rutherford losing his memory could have been a moment, but instead of doing something with it, they just threw it away in favor of doing the same joke with Tendi they've been doing with her since the show started. She's confronted with something that could be upsetting, but she just thinks it's awesome, so no need to feel anything. Change the fucking record already. And if you take away the moments, this is just more of the same stuff we've gotten all season from this show. The Tendi and Rutherford subplots were absolutely pointless. The peanut hamper thing went nowhere. Rutherford changing personalities built up to nothing. And why were you wasting so much time on that stuff when you could have devoted that time to, oh, I don't know, giving Shax some kind of development or character? Making him feel like an actual person before you killed him off, so his death might feel like it matters? This is as basic as it gets, guys! For a minute there, I was slightly intrigued when continuity suddenly started to matter because I'm a geek for that stuff, but it only applies to certain things and then doesn't with others. If continuity matters, it has to matter for everything. If you're picking and choosing when continuity is a thing and when it isn't, then you might as well just be like Voyager and hit the reset button after every episode. So yeah, not much to see here. At a glance, it looked like the writers might have been putting in some actual effort for a scene or two, but they weren't. They weren't trying. They didn't learn anything from the last 9 episodes. It's just more of the same stuff. That brings me to the end of Lower Decks, and what is there left to say? What could have been a fun Star Trek parody show was really just a collection of repetitive gags and lame, unimaginative jokes that don't land. It never made me laugh, and there's no indication that it will in the future. The one improvement that it made, if you want to call it that, is that Mariner became slightly less intolerable as the season went on. But not because she got better, really, they just toned down her abrasiveness somewhat. But even that gets ruined in this episode, because it looks like going forward, instead of her becoming a good officer like she talked about in episode 9, the writers are going to be empowering her to do more of that stuff that was so annoying to everybody in season 1. Well, no thank you. I gave Lower Decks a whole season to win me over, and they couldn't do it. I'm not going to say it's a horrible show. I do like the voice cast, and the animation tends to be pretty good, but I saw no signs that it's interested in being a good show. I don't know who Lower Decks is made for, but it's not for Star Trek fans, and it's not for me. And that is it for Lower Decks. Not gonna lie, that was kind of a slog to get through. It wasn't fun, and I didn't even get that perverse enjoyment in tearing it apart because it wasn't really bad enough to warrant being torn apart. It was just bland mediocrity all the way through. I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to moving on to something more engaging now. So while I go do that, leave me a comment to help me with the algorithm, ding that bell icon, and follow me on social media to always be notified when I upload something. The link is down there. Thumbs up the video, share, subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more very soon. Until then, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.